We are more connected right now than any point in human history, right? But that's the thing. We're also experiencing record levels of loneliness. In this explainer, we're going to take a deep dive into a modern digital expose and the business of loneliness. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a multi-billion-dollar technology sitting right there in our pockets and the role it plays to keep us all completely isolated from the world. So let's kick things off with a quick number, negative 45. That's the Net Promoter Score, or NPS, for dating apps. And if you aren't familiar with what an NPS is, it basically just tells us how likely users are to recommend a service. So a score of negative 45? That's not just bad, that's an absolute catastrophe. That's basically a user base in full rebellion. But what makes this number truly wild is the contrast. Compare that negative 45 with a positive 45 enjoyed by adult entertainment platforms. Just let that sink in for a moment. Platforms built to facilitate meaningful long term connection perform drastically worse than platforms built for just temporary satisfaction. And that's really the core of today's explainer. How on earth did this purposeful search for love turn into this addictive digital wasteland? And why are platforms that are supposed to help you find partnership and romance suddenly feel like a rigged casino where the house always wins? And the answer to that fundamental problem really boils down to just one massive glaring conflict of interest. Think about the basic mechanics for a second. If a dating app actually works perfectly and you find your soulmate on day one, well, the company instantly loses two active users. In that sense, their business model is fundamentally at war with what you, the user, is actually trying to do. And this creates a totally perverse incentive structure. Dating apps have essentially engineered a business model where your romantic failure literally equals their corporate success. Look at it this way: if you match and leave, they lose money. If you don't match and you stick around, you're generating continued subscription revenue. And all that resulting frustration, it just leads to more swiping, which directly drives up their ad impressions, which is like great for them, but essentially terrible for us. And look, this isn't just some cynical conspiracy theory, it's backed up by their own investor documents. Take Match Group, for example, the massive conglomerate that owns Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, and you name it. They literally tell their investors that keeping people from leaving the platform, keeping that churn rate, is a key financial target. They are legally and financially incentivized to keep you single and scrolling. And to see how they exactly squeeze you for your money, just take a look at Tinder's subscription rates. They take the most basic functions of a relationship, like seeing who even likes you, and lock it behind premium paywalls. $30 a month for gold and even more for platinum. This is essentially holding human connection hostage to extract microtransactions. They've turned romance into a pay to win freemium video game. Honestly, that's just how it works. This hyper transactional approach is insanely lucrative, fueling a global industry worth over $6 billion. dollars. It's a massive economy profiting off your continued unsuccessful search for love every year. But to keep that cash flowing, they have to make sure you stay hooked on the app. So, how do they do it? They weaponize a psychological quirk called choice overload. Mental overload is that feeling you get and complete decision paralysis when you just have way too many options. This whole interface is made and designed to make you feel that there's always something marginally better, literally just one swipe away. And it gives you this incredible power of illusion, this illusion of infinite choice. But as psychologist Barry Schwartz proves in his research, The Paradox of Choice, having thousands of options doesn't make you actually happier. It systematically generates anxiety and decision paralysis. When every single interaction exists in an endless sea of alternatives, actually committing to someone becomes psychologically exhausting. This leads us to a really chilling line from tech essayist Kenneth Wright. The algorithm eats love. Courtship has been totally transformed from a messy, unpredictable, beautiful human experience into a cold, hard, optimized problem. You aren't just a person anymore, you're a data point in a conversion funnel. Because behind the scenes, these algorithms are quietly judging you. They assign you an attractiveness score known as an ELO rating, a system that's actually borrowed from chess, meaning the algorithm dictates who is even worthy of your attention based on sheer aggregated probability. And this study from Carnegie Mellon just perfectly encapsulates this. They show that platforms suffer from a massive popularity bias, which prioritizes engagement driven profiles over actual compatibility. And because the algorithm is perfectly built for engagement and not actually efficiency, the results are pretty grim. Research out of the Netherlands found that people are spending on average 38 exhausting hours swiping on these platforms just to secure one single date. That's almost a full time work week. So, why do all these hard earned matches rarely work out? We can actually explain this with a Nobel winning prize economic concept called the lemon market theory. This theory was originally developed to explain why used car markets get flooded with defective cars, the lemons, but it actually maps out perfectly in our example here. Let's see how it plays out. Genuine people write honest profiles, but they constantly get overlooked for maybe more flashy, slightly deceptive ones. Eventually, these honest users get burnt out and delete the app. And so, what does that really leave behind? Well, it's a pool totally saturated with lemons, these very dishonest and low intent users. And this race to the bottom just creates a massive safety and psychological crisis. 55% of users now encounter fake profiles. We're seeing explosive growth in AI catfishing. There is literally a romance recession where Gen Z is having to prioritize making rent over the high cost of dating. And algorithms using collaborative filtering and group users based on historically exclusionary swipe patterns basically created this digital segregation. And the human cost for this is just staggering. We're looking at an 80% burnout rate amongst Gen Z users. Just let that sink in. 80%. The generation that literally grew up as digital natives are now completely exhausted by the gamification of rejection. And because of this deep burnout, people are just walking away. In the UK alone, 1.4 million people completely abandoned dating apps between 2023 and 2024, choosing to opt out rather than keep participating in a system designed to drain their confidence and their time. But there's a silver lining. The market is finally catching on as mainstream engagement driven apps like Match Group see a flatlining of 3.3% revenue uptick. Users are fleeing to smaller niche platforms. Community driven apps have seen a massive 35% surge in user engagement. People are hungry for authentic value and actual community, not just infinite swiping. So, as we wrap up this topic, we really have to ask ourselves one thing. If this so called business of loneliness is built entirely on our failure to connect, what would a technology built for actual human flourishing look like? Are we finally able to stop let the algorithm commodify our most intimate desires? And if so, that's something for us to think about the next time you feel the urge to swipe right. Thanks for watching.